welcome everyone to the February Coach Connect. On behalf of San Antonio, ICF San Antonio, I want to welcome you all. I'm the host, Susana Cravello. I'm also the board secretary. And today we're delighted to interview Vickie Silvas. And Vickie will talk to us about the health benefits of nature and applications to the coaching profession. And when Vickie and I were having our prep conversations, we thought, what a timely topic. We are 1 year into the pandemic, right? There's so much misinformation out there, so much confusion, as well as physical, mental, and emotional imbalance in a lot of people, just because we don't take advantage of going outside. Just a quick note about recording. In Coach Connect's events, we look forward to a rich and authentic interactive conversation with our guest speaker. We will use an interactive format, and we welcome everybody's comments and questions in the chat, and then we'll open mics and go ahead and discuss those questions. And please know that, if at some point you feel uncomfortable sharing anything that is very personal or feeling vulnerable, do not hesitate to send an email to contact@icfsa.org, and then we will edit. We are recording, as we know, and this will be shared very shortly on our YouTube channel as well as our SoundCloud channel. So we're very happy about that new service that we provide. Today, we're going to talk about health and nature and why spending time outdoors is important for you. And we invite you to share with us in the chat, what does nature mean to you? So take a moment. When you think about the word nature, what shows up for you? And we will discuss that in just a moment. And thank you all for sharing. Just a few updates and reminders before we actually get started. And so we sent out an email to your inboxes last night, and there will be another reminder later this week because it's time to vote. We have 4 board positions open. We have candidates for 2 of those positions, which is president and president-elect. And then we welcome your nominations for secretary as well as director of marketing and communications. So if there's anyone in your mind that you're thinking about, you'd like to recommend or propose, please share it with us, and then we'll contact these people. These positions start on March 1st, so please submit your ballot by this Sunday, which is February 28th. February 28th. Another reminder that our peer coaching program has already started, and this is a great opportunity for reciprocal coaching, to get to know each other, make friends among the members of our chapters, receive and give honest, open, transparent feedback, practice your coaching toolkit. So we have already started pairing up people in our peer coaching program, but if you're new to it, just submit, contact us, join this program, and let's have some fun. Next, we would like to share that every month, first Wednesday of the month, we do have a 30-minute member orientation. We're very happy to share with you that last month we had 5 new members, and every new member that joins the chapter is not just that member, but any other member of the chapter that wants to participate in this 30-minute orientation and welcome new people, please go ahead and join us. Paula Miles, our director of membership, is the one that coordinates these efforts, and we have them now once a month. Moving right along, just a reminder of all the programming that we have to share with you. Our Coaching Excellence series and Coach Connect are our primary programs hosted by ICF San Antonio, and those happen monthly. Then we have our regional webinar series, and these are series that we collaborate with 16 other chapters in the Southeast region of the United States. We also have a partnership with the Association for Change Management Professionals, and we formed a partnership with ICF Texas, and quarterly we host programs that are all about inclusion and diversity and equity. And we hope to resume our in-person events as soon as possible. So keep your fingers crossed that things will improve in the upcoming months. And one thing that I don't want to forget is that our business building series has already started. If you would like to join, even if it has already started, the recordings of all the sessions are available to you. So what is on the calendar? Right now, we have the ACMP Texas that has been rescheduled. I believe it's going to be March 10th instead of March 3rd. Is that right? Yes, that's just an update of a few minutes ago. We had to reschedule because it was supposed to be scheduled last week, and that was not a good time. And then Coaching Excellence, our March program, will be on the 7 habits of highly ethical coaches. And then the next 3 Southeast regional webinars will be March 11th, April 8th, and May the 13th. It's always the second week of the month, and the topics are on your screen. So without further ado, okay. Today with us is Vickie Silvas, and Vickie is one of our members. And Vickie has a background as a physician's assistant. So when she and I started talking, we just felt a connection because I have a background in medicine as well. And she obtained her health and wellness coaching certification, and then recently founded Healthier in Nature, which is her business. And it provides preventative and integrative services that address the whole person, mind, body, and spirit. In my rich conversations with Vickie prior to this event, what stood out for me was her love for the outdoors, her passion and respect for nature, and her genuine interest to help people live healthier lives all the time, health and wellness. And I too feel a connection with Vickie because that's my passion. That's what I do. Vickie works primarily with healthcare professionals to achieve a fulfilling work-life balance and optimal well-being for all their patients and for the most important patients, which is themselves. Imagine the amount of stress and unbalance and burnout that there is in that industry right now. And Vickie considers it a great privilege to journey alongside her clients as they discover their best way forward to practicing excellence and becoming healthy and whole for life. And so joining us today from Fort Collins, Colorado, welcome Vickie Silvas.
Thank you so much. So glad to be here. I'm so glad to see you guys. Yeah, I know I'm excited about this topic, and it is such, as far as where we are right now in the pandemic, and there seems to be a lot of confusion too about going outside. Is it safe to go outside? Is it something I need to do? So there's that. And then there's also just kind of the, our day-to-day, the world that we live in doesn't necessarily incorporate the outdoors, unless we're intentional, unless we really make that a part of our daily life. And I've noticed that personally, especially during the pandemic, working out of home and not even hardly getting out of my house, unless I have to make a run to the store or something. But so it really has, I think, brought to the surface just, in this past year, of, you know, health and wellness, and how does the outdoors fit into that?
So we have some answers, Vickie, from our comments when we asked the question, you know, what does nature mean to you? So some of the answers were reconnecting to life, beauty, wonder, even in the Texas hot weather, connections with being, all of life, recharging, grounding, beauty, exercise, fresh air, breathing.
I love it. I love all the, you know, the connecting, reconnecting, wander, grounding, breathing. I mean, these are all essential, you know, essential to life and to well-being. And so thank you guys for sharing those very rich descriptions. And these are all positive for the most part. And I mean, yes, heat, you know, can be good and maybe not so good, depending on how hot. But, you know, it's, you know, a lot of the things that I wrote, people think about too: enjoyment, fun, recreation, family time. You know, as a healthcare provider, it was kind of vacation. Okay, I get to go recreate. So it was kind of, you know, set aside for, you know, okay, my vacation, you know, a couple times a year. And then I'm going to go be outside and I'm going to go hiking and I'm going to do all these things. And I realize it's not a part of my everyday, or if, you know, I have to really work at it to make it a part of my everyday. And so these are all positive things. You know, not everybody is going to feel that way. And so some people, when they think of nature, is more of a fearful type of thing. And I've talked with people that, you know, they don't want to go outside. There's bugs, there's wild animals. It's hot, you know, in Texas in the summers, and that is understandable. I mean, there's a safe way to do it. But I really feel like, you know, kind of addressing some of that as well. And I know the next slide kind of talks about a little bit about some of that, but anybody have any experience with fears at all, or know people that, you know, and I love the size of our group, because you know, anybody has something they want to share or say, I'd love to hear that. Some of the other things that come up are health problems, you know, allergies. Oh my goodness, you know, cedar season, asthma, sunburns, even diseases, cancers and things. You know, with a pandemic, is it okay to go outside? What if there's a lot of people at the park, and how do I navigate that? So any thoughts on that? Anybody have or know people that are just, I'm not doing it outside? I mean, to me, it's walking from my car to the building is outside.
No, I think you bring up some really important comments around just how being outside affects people differently, whether it is an allergy or a health problem or a fear of something, whether it be, you know, as commented here, animals or different things that could be found outside, or the pandemic, or even just safety, your overall safety. Are you safe outside?
Yes.
Where I think of, you know, going on a trail and being able to walk on a trail should be like the most relaxing, energizing, you know, almost an escape to be with yourself and your own thoughts. And it can be an unsafe environment depending on where you are, which is very unfortunate.
Yeah, absolutely. So yeah, afraid of certain animals, mountain lions, bears, and then yeah, allergies can be, oh my goodness. That I have an uncle who literally leaves the state for a full month until cedar season dies down. So I mean, these are all very real. And it's interesting too to think about even other ethnicities, and we'll talk a little bit about the BIPOC community as well. And you know, getting outdoors as a social determinant, and the areas where you live, it, like you said, Janice, is it safe? you know, putting myself in harm by going outdoors. And so these are all, I think, really, you know, important things to be thinking about in our conversation. And we are going to address some of that, because that is one of the things, that is one of the reasons why people are not going outside. So yeah. And yeah, that 100 degrees weather, that, you know, there are times when it is dangerous. So, you know, how to work around that, and what are some alternatives when it's 110 outside. So
yeah, and Aurora is sharing with us, you know, so the heat in Texas can be a major consideration when it's 100 degrees outside for many hours throughout the day, 41 days in a row, more than 100 degrees, then that's a deterrent.
absolutely.
For many people to go outside.
Absolutely.
Mm-hmm.
Well, so we are going to talk about that. So thank you for bringing that up. The next slide talks a little bit about how much time that we are spending outside in general as Americans. And it's not even 7%. It's actually, the actual number is maybe even a little under 7%. And, you know, so we have found that over the last 30, well, over the last 50, but even the last 30 years, we are seeing this trend of not getting outside enough. They're finding that about 87% of the time is, you know, more indoor, in an indoor setting versus, and then there's about 6% in your vehicle. And, you know, Texans are commuters. I mean, definitely traveling from one place to the next quite a bit. And so, yeah, we'll talk a little bit about why is this significant? Should it be 50-50? You know, what is the right number of spending time outside, and what would that, is that good for you? What percent is good for you? And then we talk a little bit about, we'll go ahead and go to the next slide. I'm just curious to you guys, what is your percentage of time that you feel like you're spending outdoors? And when you think about maybe just in a week, maybe we would just take that amount of time. How often do you think you're getting out? And it may be more with a pandemic, maybe it's less. And why do you think that would be? I know for me, I'm definitely getting out less, and you know, things for various reasons. Wow, you guys are good. But you guys are not average Americans. So, but more since the pandemic, about 2 to 3 hours a day. Wow. And how does that feel? That's you know, that's an improvement. Wow, so getting some steps in too. So thanks for sharing, guys. I really appreciate that. And so sometimes it's really, you know, depending on what the circumstances are, and you know, being able to step outside your house, maybe walk around the block. Some people have to drive to a park, and so yeah, even spending 20 minutes just stepping out of your home. And there's research that actually shows that that is very beneficial for mental health. Even 5 minutes, they've done studies on medical students when they actually were able to get out for even 5 minutes, 5 to 15, but they found that even 5 lifted mood and certain hormones and neurotransmitters that were shown, like serotonin and dopamine. And so even 5 minutes, that's a kind of cool concept to think, well, I can take a break between clients, even if that's just to get out and stretch for even 5 minutes, and how that can boost mood. So thanks for sharing, guys. So what is the right dose of nature? So the right dose of nature, that's you know, it's going to be different for everybody. And and we kind of, well, this isn't to like prescribe or treat or anything like that. This is more just for information, just kind of let you guys know that, you know, there are, you know, we're all different, and some people are going to have certain limitations. And so while getting outdoors is good, we always recommend talking to your healthcare provider. And nowadays you can do a virtual visit. You don't even have to go in necessarily. So that's something you could, you know, call them about and say, you know, I'm not getting outside enough. These are some things that I'd like to look at. And you know, they can kind of talk that out with you. And so, yeah, so when we talk about what is the right dose, and we're starting to see studies that show the right certain doses that if you spend 150 minutes, 150 minutes over the period of a week outside, that actually has health benefits. And as far as for cardiovascular health and just in general, you know, we talk about chronic disease and how much that's costing the healthcare system. When we look at that, we find that there's decreased mortality by as much as 20%. When you look across the board, we're talking about heart disease, which is still by far the #1 killer of Americans. And heart disease is #1. And we have cancer and diabetes, obesity. Those are all big factors that play into chronic health diseases in the US. And so all of those are significantly impacted by exercise and spending time outdoors. And so, you know, if you can combine those two, I mean, the exercise piece, of course, is important, but combining those two, and we'll talk about what the extra benefits are in nature. So then, you know, we look at just the last, again, we talk about the last 30 years, how things are changing. It's a different way of life for us now. And, you know, 100 years ago, it was more of an agrarian culture. And, you know, my grandparents, great-grandparents were, you know, there was farming communities. Just your daily life was spent, you know, whether you were washing clothes or cooking, I mean, you were out in your garden getting things, you know, tending to whatever livestock or whatever you were growing. And so that was just part of the daily life. And, but, you know, especially when we're talking about first world countries, we are seeing, of course, now a lot of with the, just the workplaces are indoors now, and we have technology, and we have just the way things are set up, and it's in the US, but it's also in Canada, and we see it over in Europe. Maybe not to the same extent. They may have a little better walkability, which has been found, you know, that helps people if they can walk to the store, or they can walk to church, or, you know, walk to here and there. That makes that that just opens up that avenue, right, for getting out and walking, of course, which is good. But so, you know, I don't know that life's going to be any different going forward as far as the technology. Technology has wonderful benefits, and there's some really good things that we are able to do now. And so not saying that we want to go necessarily backwards, but, you know, how are we going to be incorporating, you know, a life where you are moving and you are getting out. And so not as sedentary. The sedentary is the big one, and just not moving around as much. So benefits of time outdoors. So let's look at the actual benefits. You know, it's reduced stress. You know, science is actually finding, you know, research is being done to look at this quantitatively and qualitatively. People, you know, there's studies where people will express how being outdoors makes them feel, but then we can also look at biomarkers. We can look at cortisol levels. We can look at blood pressure. We can look at pulse, you know, all these things. And but yeah, so the health benefits of time outdoors, we know that it improves mood and stress, anxiety, depression. There's multiple studies about that. It improves the immune system, reduces hypertension. Again, we talked a little bit about chronic disease, how that can be impacted, and lowers the mortality risk. And so I would just, you know, be interested to know couple of things. One is, if you guys are familiar with some of the resources in your area, as far as we'll talk a little bit more about this later on, communities that are doing this. And actually, there's something called the blue zones. And the blue zones are these regions throughout the world where people live to be 100, and not just, live to 100, but they're very active and they're very productive. And so we'll talk a little bit about that, and communities that are setting themselves up to have these blue zone, quote unquote, communities. And so, there is a city in Texas that's a blue zone community, and they are seeing the benefits of that. So sorry, I got a little bit out of order there. Are there questions, or Susanna, do you want to say anything?
I have a question for you before we get to the blue zones, right? You were talking about the benefits of being outdoors that are a very long list. And we're living in a time where we're getting a lot of mixed messages. On one hand, they tell you, because you need to protect yourself, you need to protect others, try to not to spend time outdoors because those are super spreaders. And so how do we find the balance between protecting ourselves and our beloved ones, and also taking care of our health and wellness and balance outdoors?
Yes. So yes, with the messages of, we talk about with the pandemic, getting outdoors actually is, physicians, scientists, researchers, they are recommending getting outside. And there you have better airflow outside typically, if you can get out and you can, not necessarily, you're not going to be congregating with a bunch of people. Of course, this slide here was from before pandemic, but anyway, but if you're with your family unit, right, you can be together, but the getting outside is and we'll talk again about a little bit, just some of the physical properties of being outside that are healing, that help with that. And if you are at a park, as far as wearing a mask, social distancing, washing hands, and all that still comes into play, right? Because if you're going to be around other people that aren't with your unit, that protects you, and that's one of the best protections that we have right now is the mask. And so, people are getting vaccinated, so that's great. But until we get that herd immunity for right now, the masking is still recommended, but you can definitely get outside. And so, some of the properties of actually being outside, there's phytonutrients that plants produce. There's phyticides, which are like the essential oils that trees, they produce to protect themselves. And so they've also found that can be, walking through the forest, they found that can have some benefits, even immune benefits. The microbes in the soil, there's some microbes that necessarily you don't want to come in contact with, but there's some good microbes. And so, they actually can trigger serotonin release in the brain. And so playing in the dirt actually has shown some to be beneficial. And then of course, we talk about vitamin D from the sun, actual sun vitamin D and other supplements, but we also find that the sunshine is a little more powerful in helping the body produce vitamin D. And we need that for all kinds of reasons. And so it's good for bone health, it's good for heart health, it's good for mood, digestion. I mean, there's just so many things that vitamin D does that I think they're still learning. You talk about, be careful about sun exposure because of cancers and that. And so it's about what they're kind of looking at now is wearing sunscreen. You can still have that sun exposure, but just you don't want to have a sunburn. So you really want to avoid getting too much sun if your skin is starting to, you know, the melanin in your skin is turning into, the sunburns are really can be even more of a problem. And so, but yeah, these are all things that physically that you can get by being outside. And then just that open space and being able to utilize that open space for, it could be for even getting together with family and friends, even physical exercise, whatever that may be for you, whatever you enjoy doing. Some people are around here, people climb mountains and 14ers. So you could do that if that's something that you would really enjoy doing. But you could be working in your garden, or you can be meditating. Those are all things that people, you know, everybody's going to have something that they're going to enjoy, and that's what they should do. What they enjoy is what they should do.
So Vickie,
Go ahead.
There's a couple of questions, actually the same question,
Yeah.
is what city in Texas is a blue zone city?
Great question. So Fort Worth. Fort Worth, Texas. They are, what they have done there is, there's certain things, there's 9 different things they've identified within the blue zone communities. And movement is one, stress management is one, and walkability. These are people that are out walking and moving and all these things. And so there's a program that cities across the nation are trying, that are implementing, and the mayor up there in Fort Worth they are trying to implement some of these characteristics and the blue zones, and they are seeing results. And I bet, you know, we could look into that more and just see kind of what they're doing. But yeah, it's exciting to see cities doing this, because it can be done. You don't have to live along the equator to have these, you know, wonderful fruits and vegetables and climate and all these things. Maybe not right at the equator, but anyway, warmer climate. You can implement these characteristics. Great questions.
Vickie, I have another question that's kind of related to that. And, you know, because our cities, especially, you know, San Antonio, for example, is built on freeways. I mean, we go anywhere, we get on the car and we go places, right? And so what we end up doing in order to move or exercise is we pay gym memberships. And then that's how we get our exercise. And being Texas, one of the states in the country that has a more space, you know, lower density of population and great outdoors. So what can we learn from these blue zone communities, just like Fort Worth, on perhaps how to change our lifestyle or live differently so that we can take more advantage of what is outdoors, instead of going from one building to another building, just to get our exercise every day?
I love that. That is an excellent question. And it is very, you know, it's our reality. It's what we deal with. One of the big things I think Fort Worth has done, and I don't have necessarily that information in front of me. So I do encourage you guys to look at that. And I'm happy to post more information on my website or get it out to you later, because it is nice to see what our neighbors are doing and how they're being effective and how that's working. But one of the big ones is walkability, and, you know, being able to walk out your door and, you know, have those things that you need within your community. Commuting is tough. It's tough when you're commuting because, you know, you literally, you know, you're spending your time, you know, you're at home, get up, go to work, spending 30 minutes commuting, you're there, go home. I mean, I was one of these people. Definitely. I was out until the wee hours of the evening and late hours of the evening. and I wasn't getting outside, and it was hard. One of the things though that I think is worth noting too is the built environment. And that is, if you can't get to nature to bring it to you, and being in healthcare, there's days where I was in the clinic, I didn't really see the sun, especially in the winter. It's dark when I get there, it's dark when I leave. If I'm working out of rooms with no windows, I mean, it really is. And I know other healthcare providers and people in business, and if they're not able to get outside and they're in these environments where it's literally, yeah, you're commuting and you're not near a nature park. So in those cases, and hospitals is another big one, right? Hospitals, they and understandably they have their own, they have to meet certain standards as well to keep patients safe. But one of the cool things that's being done are these they're actually garden walls, where just a large expanse of a wall will have all kinds of plants and flowers and herbs and things, and gardens in these settings. So even just employees maybe wanting that, demanding that from their employers, saying, be nice to have a garden. How much would it cost to have something like that there, and where you could even just get out for lunch or something along those lines? And so, just looking at ways to be creative and how to bring nature to you, even like just putting plants in my room. That's kind of where I've started right now. Just these plants back here, and just having those plants in your space to look at. And of course, they also provide benefits. They produce oxygen, and they help with, we have just some things just in our homes. They talk about air quality inside the home or inside the workplace, just chemicals and things, and cleaning, some of the materials that homes are built with and businesses are built with. So we're also exposed to that when we're in that environment all day. So it gets to be where, okay, what's the balance? And how am I getting out and incorporating that into the day? And that's what I love about even 5 minutes, even if you got outside your work building for 5 minutes, or the hospital for 5 minutes, or get near a window. And I love, somebody had mentioned about the window. So, it's absolutely, I mean, there are ways, or creative ways to do it. And it does take some intentionality, I think, and looking at that. There is a TED Talk that I would love you guys, if you're interested, to look at about garden walls. It was a teacher did this with his students, and I'm happy to give you a link to that. But it was amazing, the structures that they built in inner city areas. And so there's some cool things happening. Even just, I love, there's a place over in San Antonio, the Pearl Brewery. It's kind of fun to walk around there and see how they've incorporated planter, like there's a planter there of, where they were able to make that. I mean, and those are garden vegetables there. So multifunctional, looks nice, and, incorporating that environment and being able to make it beautiful.
Vickie, along those lines, I have a question for you. The physicians you work with,
yes,
right? As well as probably many of the clients that we work with in this group are very busy people. They work, like you say, from sunrise to the time when it's dark outside, and they may perceive that going outdoors and spending time in nature is a waste of their time because they have more important things to do.
yes.
Or because their jobs are so demanding. And so how do we make the case, and how do we help them find that inner motivation to really restore some of that physical, mental, emotional balance in their lives?
Absolutely. I love it. Thank you, Susanna. Great question. That is a great question. I think part of that is, I know for me personally, it did have to, I had to meet up with other colleagues who wanted to do that. And I think that, again, that accountability as coaches that we know so well, and, you know, getting together with someone else. And right now that's a little harder, working out of home, but, you know, I've been able to kind of work out some things. But yeah, I think, you know, as far as even just spending that 5 minutes, how addicting that can be, and then working, you know, taking those small steps. But as you mentioned, it's like, well, that's 5 minutes I could be finishing my charts, or that's 5 minutes I could shoot off these emails, and so on and so forth. And so, and it's so easy to get sucked in. I know the other day I got sucked in by an advertisement on my computer that popped up. It knew exactly what I was looking for. And isn't that amazing how that works nowadays? And I was like 10 minutes later, I'm like, oh my gosh, what have I done? You know, so it is so easy to get pulled in, and especially with technology, and not take that time. And so, you know, that's something that I like to challenge my clients with is, you know, what is it? What are some things you can do to incorporate some action steps, right? Moving forward to incorporate nature, and or getting outdoors and moving and getting up and moving. And so for some people, it's an app. I have a client, he's got an app, and he's really happy with that app. And at 4:30, it tells him, you know, he's going on doing the next thing. And he's gotten now to where he prepares a little bit ahead of time, so he's not surprised, oh, it's 4:30, and getting into that habit. But you know, it's and I love some of the comments about, you know, what is your well life vision going forward? And, you know, how do you want to be in another year from now, in 3 years from now, or 5 years from now? Being able to, you know, enjoy being with your family and being active, and grandkids, and so on. And so to help make those daily decisions each and every day. What is it that needs to happen now? Because we have identified with our sedentary culture, this is not healthy. It's not how we were designed. It's kind of a product of where technology has taken us, but also we have a responsibility, right, to be informed, and to be intentional, and to make these healthy changes.
I'm curious and would like to ask our audience today, what is your personal motivation to go outside, to spend time in nature?
Well, I think Aurora said it very nicely. Yeah, I mean, and she's on mute, so I don't know if she's coming off, but she did put it in the chat, and it's, you know, being healthy for her grandkids, and her kids aren't even dating yet. So it is that looking forward into being healthy in living a long, healthy life. And I think that's, you know, kind of where I connected as well, is you have to find that what's in it for me, what's my purpose and my mission in life, and how does nature, or being healthy in all facets, help me fulfill my purpose and my mission. And you know, I think a lot of times I think of it as movement. You know, I have to have movement, but to keep me healthy. But I do know, I mean, I spend a lot of time off the Texas coast on a boat, and you put me on a boat in the water, and that's my nature. And I do some of my most creative thinking there, because that's where I'm most relaxed, and you know, I enjoy it.
I love it. That's beautiful. Thank you for sharing.
And my grandkids someday too.
And your clients, y'all's clients need you well into the future.
Yeah, for me, I definitely can relate with Aurora and Denise in the sense that I do a lot of thinking. I feel more present when I'm outdoors. I have grandchildren, and so they're definitely a drive for me. But there's something else that stood out for me one day when I was reading about healthy aging. And so basically what they said is there's a very big difference between aging naturally and in a healthy way and deterioration because you neglect yourself. And so sometimes you see people, you know, that are in their 60 or whatever, and you say, oh, wow, that person looks great, right? And sometimes you see, well, that person that doesn't look that great. And that the difference, you know, is how do we take care of ourselves? And so that, you know, and so the motto of the person that was sharing this information was, I want to live young for as long as I can. And so feeling well, feeling healthy, feeling that you are at your best for as long as you can, has become my motivation as well. And that definitely includes spending time outside. All the benefits that you just mentioned.
And I love how earlier on people mentioned reconnecting and grounding. And you had talked a little bit about some of the mental stress, and goodness, I mean, with the pandemic and just stress in general, even before the pandemic, you know, Americans rank very high when it comes to anxiety and just stress in general compared to the rest of the world. And so, you know, taking that time out, and again, just, you know, is it a waste of time to go stand outside near a tree? I mean, how, you know, when I could be doing other things. But, you know, giving yourself permission to say, you know what, you know, this is a time for, you know, we talk about mindfulness, we talk about just kind of resetting, recentering, and how much more productive people actually are when they're able to do that. And how being in a place where you can, you know, even some meditation, even if it's just some deep breathing, taking in the smells. If your eyes are open, you're looking at the, you know, if you're in a garden area or just even a tree, looking at the leaves and the intricacies of a flower, you know, it could be just something that simple. And it kind of, it helps, again, we talk about, you know, how our brains function, right? You know, you get your prefrontal cortex, you've got the amygdala, and sometimes the amygdala kind of takes over and you're just in that fight or flight thing. And so these things kind of help to just calm that part of the brain down. They did a study with, this is again, with healthcare professionals. They looked at different slides. Healthcare professionals looked at slides that elicited compassion. And these are people who are in distress. And these certain hormones and certain activity in the brain, you know, was activated, and that's associated with stress and anxiety. But then when they looked at photos of beautiful pictures of nature, it was literally, I mean, amazing how, because they did brain scans on these individuals with this ultra cool technology, these souped up MRI scans now they can do. And what amazing difference that when they looked at the photos, and these are photos of beautiful landscapes. And so, you know, we know that there is a physiological process happening. And so taking that time out, whether it's 5 minutes or a 15-minute break throughout your day, and, you know, to have that mental rest too.
Let's open up the mics and ask the rest of our participants if you would like to share some questions, some comments so far. And the question I have for you is, what drives you? What is your motivation to spend time outdoors, be in contact with nature? Anybody?
There's a lot of things that drive me. I would have to say, especially in my neighborhood, when I think about just how my muscles feel, how my heart feels, how what it feels like to break a sweat. I know that may sound weird, but it really makes me feel like I'm doing my body good. But then there's the aesthetic part of being out in nature. In my neighborhood, we back up to Deer Hollow or Tapatio Springs. And so there's this pseudo trail that when you get to the peak, there's something about the power of getting to the top of the hill. I made it. And then it plateaus and you see this beautiful view of all these hills in the hill country. And to me, that is really inspiring to get up there. And I also use that time to listen to a lot of different podcasts that I enjoy listening to, or music, honestly, music. So that's kind of what motivates me.
Love that. The actual, how your body feels, that reward, endorphins even.
Yeah,
And
Melissa says in the chat that she loves to cycle on her bike, that she feels calm and it gives her power at the same time. So it's that,
I love
just
it.
feeling.
I love it. Yes.
Question that maybe I'm actually looking at so many pictures of you all, and I see these huge pane glass windows with beautiful views outside, and that is such a connection to nature. And I actually do have them. They're in front of me and not behind me. What is I mean, I know it can't be as good as getting outside, but it's got to be better than being enclosed in four walls that you don't get to see at least the sunshine or outside.
Yes. And that is something they're doing some research with virtual windows in hospitals, where they have these, like you've seen them in airports, these big Megatrons, but these are beautiful. Like the technology now, they look so real. And so they are looking at studies, putting these up in hospitals where it could be a beautiful tropical view, or it could be, just these incredible pictures. And they are already seeing that does really elevate mood, and it does make a difference. And so
I'm thinking about the Peloton. I don't have a Peloton. I think that's what they're called, Peloton. But even my elliptical, I can go running in Paris if I want to. And of course, for me, that intimidates me. But yeah, for some people, it just makes it takes you to a whole new place.
Yeah. And those days when it is 110 and you're not going to be out hiking in the middle of the day, it is nice to be able to have other alternatives. And so, yeah, absolutely. I mean, we're talking here about reasonable expectations. You work with where you're at, whatever the environment that you're at, or you're in. If a hospital setting where there's like no windows and you're not getting out hardly at all, maybe a nice virtual window is a start, and then maybe, on my break, I'm going to go stand outside where there's the planters or a garden area, and then just working from there, and then just gradually implementing that time in your day, and again, just all the various benefits there, the physical, the mental, and even the spiritual pieces of all of that, and how that's incorporated. So and thank you, Melissa, for your comment about taking your computer outside, because that's if you're able to, that would be so awesome. But even maybe getting next to a window, and that's a lot of time, like where I am now, I'm right next to a window and I see a beautiful plant in my neighbor's yard, and it brings me joy to be able to be in this spot. But you guys are definitely, I hear you, thinking about how to more incorporate this more, which is awesome.
Vickie, I have a comment.
Yes.
So I remember listening to a really interesting podcast with the Blue Zone organizers, fascinating collaborative study. And one of the questions is how can you change your community to be a blue zone? And the presenter was very hesitant to go on, but he did, and he gave a nugget that I think is so important. He said it's really, really difficult to change your community. Obviously, you're talking about things that we can do, they're in our control. He was saying, and again, he was hesitant to say it, he said, move. If it's really important to you, move.
Mm-hmm.
And so we happen to be we happen to be listening to that podcast in a blue zone area in Hawaii, where we have a home. And it's so interesting because when you asked how many hours, we work there. It's not just a vacation home, but we will spend 6 hours at least a day outside, as to 2 or 3. The whole lifestyle just changes. So, and then what made me think about that too are my children, millennials, who are not wanting to live out where we do. They want to live in a walking community.
Yes.
They want to live in the thriving parts. So what you're saying is resonating on many different levels, but it's true. We have to dictate our surroundings to what gives us that feel, and that intuitively our children are wanting more of this interactive with nature lifestyle.
Yeah, I love that. Thank you for sharing that. That's awesome. One of the things that I love about San Antonio is the Howard Peak Trail, where they have converted the drainage of the Salado Creek, and now it's encompassing and circling the entire city and going through and alongside neighborhoods. And I know Melissa, I don't know if you cycle on the Salado Trail or not, but that's something that I really applaud the city and those, the innovators and the thinkers who saw this as an opportunity to create these, these greenways, basically, that's throughout the city, that run throughout the city. And in the last few times I've been down there, we've been on it, and the people are using it. They're out and they're enjoying themselves. And they even have like safety patrol guys on their bikes riding by. And so I see that San Antonio has some awesome opportunities to expand, and working with businesses and nonprofits. And I mean, you guys are the innovators and the thought leaders. And so that's why I think this talk is so important. And working with your clients, and getting the word out there, and getting that energy, and getting the support, whether it's and we have there's city support, there's within the city parks department, we have community, Bear County, and so it's absolutely, I think we do start, and we do think about millennials and the generations coming up, but they're wanting this too. And so this is where it all starts. It's got to start somewhere. Yeah.
I just wanted to make a comment real quick. Somebody just asked, what are the practical applications for coaching in the topic that we're talking about? And so one of the things, if I may, is think about clients that you're working with that are highly stressed, that are on the verge of burnout, that are feeling unproductive, or that it's obvious to you that they have a very unhealthy lifestyle. And so, this is all about self-care, and self-care is critical. We cannot be productive, we cannot be at our best with the people we love or at work unless we are balanced, unless we take care of ourselves first, right? And so questions that I'm thinking of, that I would ask my client is, how can you incorporate nature in your life? How can you rebalance your life?
Yes.
Or how do you create an environment that supports your health goals? How do you shift your energy from being, destructive and draining to something that lifts you up and makes you feel, like I said, at your best, constructive? Any other ideas around this?
Susanna, for me, it's always about community. People are going to be more proactive when they're with others. So, as I'm listening to this conversation and thinking about, Vickie, what you said, being thought leaders and innovators, well, how can coaches really support the idea of people to connect in outdoors in nature so that they're not alone? Connecting with nature it's like it's not enough, especially during this pandemic. It's connecting with people.
Yes.
So you're making me think of all the hikes people would have, like they would, meetups, and how they can be together to walk trails or whatever. So Absolutely. I'm inspired to check in on that.
I love it. Thank you for bringing that. Such a great point, Aurora. We are meant to be in community. And I mean, granted, there's times when you just maybe need to be alone and have some meditative time, but that community, that interacting with others, and it could be family, it could be good friends, it could be loved ones. And absolutely, that, and again, that's a Blue Zone, one of the 9 attributes is that sense of community and that belonging. And so, yeah, thank you for bringing that up.
I go back to a little bit of what Susanna was asking about from our clients' perspective, because they are in the world that I'm in. I coach extremely stressed out leaders. They are living in a very volatile, complex organization that they don't. A lot of times they don't think they have time for coaching because they don't have the hour, much less the 5 minutes that they need to walk around the block or outside. And sometimes it takes a lot to get them, to realize dedicating that time can give you so much more time in other areas. And that, I mean, I'm not going to put myself out of business here, but I would say, go take 5 or 10 or 15-minute walk and, come for 45 minutes with me. I'll share the time. Or let's go on a walk. Let's do a walk around and have our coaching session in a walking round. What can you do? Because it is so important to reduce the stress. And I do a lot with mindfulness, and, not mindfulness practicing, but talking to my clients about their mindfulness. And this has given me really a completely different perspective to include this is a component of self-care.
I love that, Denise. Very cool.
Denise, you're reminding me of one of our recent events that was entitled Keep Calm and Coach On. And our presenter shared with us the results of a research study that says, what happens when people don't take breaks during the day and they're just working. So the stress level is always on the rise until, they're not being able to focus anymore. They lose, they're not in their cool anymore. They're not productive anymore, versus taking breaks at regular intervals. And so what they notice is that the stress level, could increase, and then it goes down because of the break they take. And then you keep going and it goes down. And so what happens at the end is the actual stress level stays the same. It doesn't increase throughout the day, and then you have to de-stress at the end of the day. And you may do that in unhealthy ways, versus by taking breaks, planned breaks throughout the day, this doesn't happen at all.
Absolutely. And there's a science behind that. And that's one of the tenets of the Blue Zones too, is that they often will have a day off, like it could be the Sabbath or, you know, a day of rest, and they are so much more productive when they do that. Thank you, Sonalyn, for sharing that we have improved with the having now with bikers and biking and walking trails in 5 years. That's exciting. It's just the beginning.
So we're about to wrap up for today's Coach Connect. Can everybody share with us, what are you taking away from today's presentation? If you can just type something in the chat or open your mic and share.
I really appreciated the conversation. And what I would say is it's helping me be more mindful about, you know, I can bring my computer out here and get a little bit more nature around me, and being very mindful about how beneficial it is for me to take this time, and really needs to be a non-negotiable, you know, that we're out either riding my bike, taking the dog for a walk, doing something out in nature, because it is so calming, but yet so powerful at the same time. So thank you for the conversation.
I want to learn more about Blue Zones. I think that is Sam. I think he changed to his iPhone. I'm not 100%. Stan, who made that comment. Where can we learn more about Blue Zones? Do you have a resource for that?
Yes, there's a book written by Dan Buettner. Let me spell his name for you. He worked with National Geographic, and they just decided that it's DANBUETTNER. There's the book originally that came out a few years ago. It's called The Blue Zones: 9 Lessons for Living Longer from the People Who Live the Longest. So yeah, you can put that into any search engine and you'll get plenty of information. But yeah, The Blue Zones: 9 Lessons for Living Longer from the People Who Live the Longest by Dan Buettner.
Okay, I have one link. I'm sure there's many, but I just Googled and popped one quickly in the chat. I know a lot of times if I can at least get a window opened, then I can go back and search it when I have time. So that will get you at least started. Oh, and look at those blue bonnets.
Not coming around the corner. Can't wait.
Exactly. It's going to be a beautiful time of the year to be outdoors. And all the Texas wildflowers will be out for us to enjoy and appreciate. And so let's promote everything that we learned today. So I want to thank so much Vickie for being here with us today, for sharing with us her knowledge, her expertise, her wisdom, and for us to apply to ourselves as well as use with our clients as needed. Just a quick reminder that we are now on Vimeo and YouTube and SoundCloud. So keep in mind that all our events that are free of charge, like today's, will be available on YouTube and SoundCloud. And all the events that are paid, that are hosted by ICF San Antonio, like Coaching Excellence Series, will be available on Vimeo. And there is a subscription for Vimeo. If you have any questions, please contact Aurora at contact@icfsa.org. By the same token, please remember that we have a mobile app for Wild Apricot. Wild Apricot is a platform that we use for the ICF San Antonio website. And when you create an account, it allows you to keep track of the events, of your CCU certificates. You can send messages to members, connect with other members, register for events right there using your app. Finally, please don't forget to follow us in social media. We're everywhere. We're on Facebook, Twitter, Instagram, LinkedIn, YouTube, Vimeo. What is this one, Aurora? SoundCloud, and also on Slack. And thank you so very much to all of you who participated today, for sharing your thoughts, your questions, your experiences with us today. And once more, thank you from the heart, Vickie. It was a pleasure and an honor to have you today.
Thank you. I really enjoyed it. And thank you to all of you for all you shared. Thank you so much.
Have a great rest of your week.
Thanks, Vickie. Thanks, everyone. Everybody go outside now.
That's right.
Thank you. This was wonderful.
Bye.
Bye-bye.